Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to see everybody here. I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everybody to the July 2nd meeting of the Temple Terrace City Council. I'd like to remind everybody to please silence your electronic devices. That's a little inside joke there, but and if you would, please stand and join us in the invocation and the pledge. Lord, as we celebrate the 248th anniversary of our country's independence this week, we thank you for our freedom and ask you to remind us of the ideals our nation was founded on. The principles of natural rights of all people, equal justice under the law, and free election of our representatives are cornerstones of the great American experiment in democracy. Help us to remember that these principles require constant work to meet the challenges of the advancement of human history. Give us the strength to meet these ongoing challenges with hope and optimism rather than divisiveness and despair. We ask your blessings upon our meeting tonight as we work to advance the founding principles of our nation in our amazing city. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. I do see some new guests with us, and we'd like to welcome you to our council meeting. We do have a kind of a newer tradition that we began a year and a half or so ago in Temple Terrace, where we start each meeting with a fun or interesting fact about our city or the region, and we rotate that each meeting, and tonight it falls on Council Member Fernandez, so that's all yours.
Okay, thank you. So if any of you saw the last meeting, you know that the mayor spoke about our tree canopy, and Temple Terrace is a tree city. This is a little bit along those lines, but different. When Bertha Palmer first arrived in what is now Temple Terrace, the area had already been used for turpentine camps, homesteaders, and orange groves. So a lot of our trees were actually longleaf pine trees, which is hard to imagine since now we see our tree canopy as primarily oak trees. But the natural setting was very different in the 1700s before Bertha Palmer got here, and that was prior to turpentine and logging. And Temple Terrace had bald cypress, longleaf pines, and sand live oaks. And the setting was pretty densely treed, and it attracted a lot of Native Americans to fish and camp in the area. But it also attracted some very unexpected visitors. In 1757, April of 1757, it actually attracted people from Columbus's Spanish entourage. Wasn't necessarily at that time, but it was Don Francisco Maria Sealy, captain of the Royal Spanish Fleet, and he led an expedition up the Hillsborough River into the area we call River Hills Park. And it was specifically to look for the long-trunked pine trees because they used those for mast replacements. And you can imagine other parts of Florida, farther south, you might not find that type of tree. So they launched the expedition, came up the Hillsborough River, and found the pine trees they were looking for, and they actually named the area, and this is the English translation, the Pine Forest of the Cross of St. Teresa. And the Spanish expedition found the trees of great magnitude and the Hillsborough River water very delicate in taste. I don't know about, they didn't say anything about the alligators. But it is not known how many pine trees they harvested to be used as the mast replacement. And we don't know how long. We know they stayed, they camped, and they took the trees and left, but we don't know, there's no documentation to say that they came back at any time to harvest any more pine trees. So as far as we know, it was one trip. But confirmation of the fleet's travel is in a map and logbook, which are located in the museum, the Naval Museum in Madrid, Spain. So we know that this happened. We have the drawing that shows, and if any of you have the Temple Terrace history book, there is a reproduction drawing in that book. And if you go down to River Hills Park, there's actually a plaque that commemorates this trip that, you wouldn't expect the Spanish fleet to be anywhere near Temple Terrace, but there they were. So that's my fun fact.
Thank you. So it just dawned on me that the nation of Spain owes us some money for the tree mitigation fund. We have their own map to prove our case. So
There you go.
we'll get to work on that, Jim. We'll send them a bill. So very good. Thank you. That was very interesting. So our first item of business is a proclamation for Parks and Recreation Month, and we'll call our Leisure Services Director, Carl Langfeld, to the podium. Welcome, Carl. So the proclamation reads as the following. It says, whereas Parks and Recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country and are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our community, ensuring the health of our citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. Parks and Recreation programs provide therapeutic recreation services that improve all citizens' mental and emotional health. Parks and Recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity, increasing property values, tourism, as well as reducing crime. Parks and Recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community. Our park and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for adults to connect with nature and children to play outdoors. The U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month. Temple Terrace recognizes the benefits derived from park and recreation resources. So therefore I, Andy Ross, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Temple Terrace, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of July as Parks and Recreation Month. So thank you for being here. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Each year when I get to stand up here and receive this proclamation, I spend a few days prior to thinking about how I want to recognize Parks and Recreation and what we do in and for this city. This community is blessed with some of the finest recreation facilities in the region. I'll put our facilities up against anybody's any day of the week. And with support of our City Council and the community, we're able to share some of those facilities with local populations that oftentimes would otherwise not have access to quality recreation facilities like ours. Some use them for educational purposes, some use them to compete, some use them to rehabilitate. These are groups such as Hillsborough County Head Start. We provide swim lessons to those children each spring free of charge. James Haley VA Hospital, we have an agreement with them to provide recreational therapy patients, a place to come. They work out in the fitness center, they swim in our pool, they play pickleball on our pickleball courts. Focus Academy students are there on a daily basis throughout the year doing community-based training, helping out with some light cleaning and maintenance around the facility, as well as operating the Focus Cafe. Special Olympics use our facility. They use the gymnasiums for volleyball, basketball tournaments. They use our gymnastics facilities. They use our pools. Everybody knows about Buddy Baseball and a great program that is. Those children get to participate at no cost from that organization to us at the Buddy Baseball field located behind Lewis Elementary School. The local high school and tennis teams utilize Parks and Recreation facilities. Additionally, we provide our facilities to area college students for coursework. This coursework not only benefits the students, but also the community at large. Many of you are aware of the USF Exercise Science Program. Each fall, they bring in students and do fitness training with our seniors. That is a tremendously popular program, and it has been a great benefit to a good number of seniors and continues to grow in popularity every year. This year, that program has expanded, and that program, our program at the Rec Center, is going to expand as well, offering that opportunity to even more seniors. Additionally, Florida College nursing students utilize the Lightfoot Center as an opportunity to learn to communicate with the senior population that they will be working with upon graduation. All of these opportunities that we provide to the community, we do so free of charge of them. We are able to open our doors to them to help out those kids who may not otherwise have those opportunities and to provide educational opportunities to students to prepare them for careers as they move forward. And as your Leisure Services Director, I'm extremely proud of managing these relationships and being able to offer our facilities to these people. So, thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you, Mr. Langfeld, and I have to tell you, and I think I can speak for the whole council on this, and you know, when you do something really well, it looks to other people like it's really easy. And we all know that that is not the case, and all the festivals, all the programs, the wonderful facilities we have, we're getting ready to have the parade and the fireworks and Winter Wonderland, the Fall Festival, it just goes on and on. And these things always look like, oh, it's great, we come together, we have a little party, and we go home, and everything is, you know, everything's so smooth. But that takes hundreds of hours of staff time to plan that, and it's not as effortless as it looks from the outside. So it is noticed. I talk to a lot of people in the community, as does everybody up here, and I can tell you that they notice what you do and they appreciate it. So this is from me, but it's really from the whole community. So thank you. Let's give them a round.
One, two, three. One more. Smile. There you go. Got it. Thank you.
Council members, has everybody had an opportunity to review our minutes from June 18th? And if so, is there a motion?
To approve.
Second.
I think she got you. Seconded by Councilmember Fernandez. Any adjustments, corrections? If not, all those in favor signify with aye. Aye. Opposed, no nays. Minutes are adopted. Next are persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda or items on the consent agenda. I see a couple of you have already signed up for public comment. If you're here and you wish to comment, there are forms in the back of the room near the door, and you still have time to sign up if you change your mind and you want to comment. So, first is Callaway Taylor here? You have ceded your time, sir? Okay, and Sarah Taylor, you've ceded your time. Okay, so help me out here. Ravel Vakili? Ravel Vakili, welcome. You have 5 minutes. And good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for accommodating us this evening.
No problem.
Something that we've done before. My name is Ravel, and I am a Temple Terrace resident, also longtime Temple Terrace resident. I work in real estate for Smith & Associates in downtown Tampa, and I've worked quite a bit in the Temple Terrace area throughout my 19 years working in real estate. But I'm here really in behalf of Callaway and Sarah Taylor. They are new homeowners, and they purchased in River Park, which is our new D.R. Horton community. It has about 141 homes, I believe, and they're almost complete. They purchased last year. They moved in November. So they paid a premium lot for a premium price for a corner lot, and they were under the impression. When we asked about all of the rules and would they accommodate the fencing. And especially being a corner lot, it was very important because they're exposed to everybody on the street, whereas inside lots do not have the street views. So this was extremely important. It was a reason that they purchased the lot that they wanted was because it was a corner lot. It had a little bit of extra room, and they paid a premium for that. So they understood that there's a 10-foot easement between the road and their property, and then there's an additional about 11 and a half feet that was theirs, and they were under the understanding that they could fence that in. They went through the HOA approval process. They received approval from D.R. Horton, from the HOA very quickly. They then had a fence installed and then they were fined because they were not allowed to have the fence there, and we're told that it has to be even with the end of the house. So the only thing that they could do is have this fence attached to the wall of their home going back. And there's already, D.R. Horton already had a fence in the rear to the property, and that even extended that additional 11 and a half feet that they need, and that they assume they could square it off for their home. So I think that the purpose really of our visit today is that we're not really asking for any sort of exception to be made. It just seems like this rule or this code just doesn't make any sense for a homeowner in Temple Terrace. And so they've been told that it will be approved. It will be approved. At first they were told spring, summer, and now they're being told winter time. And they're inconvenienced in the fact that they can't even really sit on their back porch and be in their backyard without being, exposed to the street. So it's something they have children and grandchildren, so it's just something important to them. However, there's 10% of the homes here. You have about 14 homes that are affected by the same thing, and other homeowners have expressed their same concern. And they have expressed that they would like to show up for the meetings and express that concern. However, this is kind of the beginning process, and we just wanted to let it be known that if there is any way there can be an urgency placed on this so that it could get revised or approved possibly. And I think, I don't have any, let's see. I think that's it. We've reached out to D.R. Horton to see if they could provide any assistance in behalf of the homeowners, and that has not made any progress at this point. So that's all we're asking.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for being here.
Okay.
City manager, you, I assume, would kind of follow up with them and let the council know what I can kind of infer some of it, but
Right, I believe this is probably related to side yard setback issues that were discussed at one of our, a couple of our land development code workshops. So I'll follow up with the city planner, and we will see where we are with that and bring any information back to you.
okay, good, thank you.
And if you need any survey or information, you have all of the information. Okay?
Okay, thank you all for coming tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Loeb, good evening, sir.
My name is Charles Loeb, Terrace Park. First of all, I want to wish you all a happy July 4th and good luck on your parade. And I did, and in case before you all might miss it, there's an article on page 8 in tomorrow's Beacon about your parade last year. You'll be sharing it with Wesley Chapel, but that's besides the point. But the picture is from you all, your thing last year. I did want to talk about two topics tonight. Number one, I want to talk about the centennial, one aspect of the centennial I was thinking about. And that is about if you would consider, and again, this is not just the council, but the public as well, your public and the city manager. If you would consider van pooling over, in other words, having pickup stops within the city to your events, so you can avoid having some of the traffic and parking problems that you might have. In other words, for example, if you're the most obvious one I could think about would be, let's say, for the riverfront program that you were talking about from May 3rd, 2025, having a stopover at City Hall or maybe at other locations throughout the city through van pooling. See if there's a demand for that within your citizens. And they might even mention it to you, you might even mention that to them on July 4th. Eventually, the goal would be, if you can see a lot of demand, see a lot of people that would be interested in doing something like that, not only to do the van pooling toward events to try to avoid traffic and parking problems to your events. Obviously, you would want to have more people coming and have less traffic problems for whatever events that you that you're going to put up or put on over the centennial year next year. The other thing I want to talk about with the remainder of my time is the library sale. I would probably, we want to talk about this in 2 weeks too, if I'm assuming that I'm here in 2 weeks. And that is, I want to remind everybody that it's Thursday, July 25th to Saturday, July 27th from 10 to 4 in the library, the Temple Terrace Library. And they're gonna, I would assume, because all the time they always have the usual selection of books, but not just books, but DVDs, sometimes long-playing records, video cassettes, all kinds of stuff. And even, I remember even sometimes seeing comic books once in a while and all kinds of things that people can do to, get some reading material over the summer, to have some doing some reading and help the library raise some money. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Loeb. So I'm going to close the public comment section unless somebody's changed their mind. Okay, and I do want to let you guys know that you're certainly welcome to stay for the whole meeting. It's a public meeting. We love to have the public here, but don't feel obligated. And if you feel awkward getting up and walking out after public comment, people do it every meeting. It's okay. So you leave when you want to leave. Okay, next is a resolution approving speed humps in the Sagebrook community on Indigo Breeze Court and Water Chestnut Drive. And our city engineer, Brian McCarthy, is here to explain. Good evening, Mr. McCarthy.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council. I'm Brian McCarthy, City Engineer. Today I'm seeking your approval to construct speed humps along Indigo Breeze Court and Water Chestnut Drive, specifically between Indigo Breeze Court and Pagoda Place. As part of our speed hump policy, staff would evaluate the need for speed humps if more than 50% of the homes along the roadway segment sign a petition. So the 4 segments that we have within this neighborhood, 2 of those met the threshold and were evaluated. Engineering reviewed the crash history, the speed data, and pavement conditions, and based on that, we felt the criteria was met to construct speed humps on Indigo Breeze Court and Water Chestnut Drive. As part of our public outreach, residents were notified of the City Council meeting being held tonight, and if the criteria were met via mail. So in the figure on the screen, we have the approximate locations on where we would install the speed humps. We would typically look for locations that are spaced 300 to 500 feet apart to be effective. Please keep in mind that these aren't the final locations, as staff will go back out and conduct an additional field review to make sure that the permanent locations aren't in front of driveways, near fire hydrants, or blocking any drainage inlets. The next figure is of the speed humps that Public Works installed on Knights Branch Street May of this year. These are the ones that City Council approved late last year. We would install something similar along the 2 streets. So through the public outreach process, engineering received 2 emails. Both were forwarded to the city clerk and in turn forwarded to City Council for your review and consideration. Both emails were opposed to the speed humps. And with that, I'm available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Are there members of the public here to comment on this? Seeing none. Oh, yes, please come forward. We just need your name and city of residence at the beginning, please.
Yeah. Hi. Lisa Roberts, City of Temple Terrace. Hi, everybody. Miss you guys. I live in Sagebrook, and I have been fighting this about 3 years now, to get them there. And I know that most residents have opposed to it, but those speed bumps are really, really, really needed. Like, 2 of my grandkids have almost been hit and killed by the guys that drives around and, have their race cars and their Teslas and lowriders speed through. And I'm right there when you turn the curve. I'm the one at Water Chestnut. So I really hope this kind of help with it, and we don't have to keep fighting with the city to get it done, because we are a small community back there. I think y'all don't forgot about us, but I know y'all haven't. I see the police out there enough. Hey, Carlos. I've seen the police out there enough lately. They've been making a lot of visits, but just know we're back there. Don't forget us. We need y'all, and we're happy to be part of the city. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there other members of the public who wish to comment on this? Okay. Council members, questions? Yes, Councilmember Abel, or Vice Mayor Abel.
So my question is, the proposed speed humps in the picture looked like they were not made out of asphalt. Is that correct?
Yes, the ones on Knight Branch Road are currently that plastic rubberized speed humps. The ones that we would be proposing would be asphalt.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood what you said in your.
No, and I was going to bring that up actually after questions.
Okay. I'll wait then.
Councilmember Schisler.
Well, I'm going back to the same type of issue. With the lower speed hump, has the issue at River Run been mitigated by that? Or by that height of a speed hump? Has that helped in that area? In other words, are we going to replicate something that isn't really working and we need to try something else? Has the effectiveness been increased or the speed been mitigated in those areas?
So along Knights Branch Road, we're actually going to reevaluate that this month. We'll work with the police department to establish that JMR device back out there to see if the speeds have decreased or increased. We have driven it ourselves, and we have noticed that they are more of an aggressive treatment compared to the ones throughout the city that we currently have. So we do feel like they would be effective.
Okay. So the areas that have highlighted with the red squares, you've had a 50% or greater acceptance of or approval by the residents for those humps there, those locations.
Yes, along Indigo Breeze and Water Chestnut Drive between Indigo Breeze and Pagoda Drive.
All right. Thank you.
Council members?
Sure. Okay.
Member Chambers.
On the speed tables that are in your report, what does 85 percentile mean on that? That may be a question for police, but
So within DOT, generally, we don't generally look at the average speed limit. We look at the 85th percentile because that's what more people are comfortable driving than just the average. It's just something that we use within the Department of Transportation to review when there's speeding occurring on a roadway.
okay, so does that mean 15% are going over that on the first one, 37 miles an hour? Is that what that means, the 85, or?
So
What
there's
does 85 mean?
85% of the vehicles traveling feel comfortable going at or below that speed limit, or that speed that's provided in the report, which I believe was 37 and 35 miles per hour.
Okay. I still don't quite understand it, but okay. When you say at or below, I mean, if someone's going 5 miles an hour, that's,
They're comfortable driving that road.
okay.
Think of another way to try to explain. It's just about, again, how comfortable a driver is driving this. So out of 100 vehicles, 85% of the vehicles will drive that speed or less based upon that roadway characteristics.
Okay, so then we can assume people are driving over 37
Yes.
and that one road in
And
35.
that 15% is part of that vehicles driving over the 37 miles per hour.
Okay, and thank you for that. And one more? Sure. On your asphalt speed hump, the example you showed was a 3-part. Will the asphalt one be a 3-part or a speed table more?
It would be the 3-part as well.
So there'll be a gap for bicyclists and motorcycles in between. That's what I like about three-part ones.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Fernandez.
So for the speed hump that you're looking at installing, how is that? I know obviously our goal is to reduce the speed of the cars traveling through the neighborhood, but how is that for cars to travel over in a physical sense? I mean, do cars that have a lower profile find that it's very difficult to get over what you're proposing, or is it something that's just really going to result in the car in general needing to slow down?
I would say a lower profile car will have more difficulty traversing the speed humps, yes.
Do we know, I know that you're looking at evaluating the effectiveness in the recent installation that we have on Knights Branch Road. Do we know, like, as a general rule, do speed bumps really reduce the travel speed, because we've had them on Whiteway, we've had them on Druid Hills in years, and they've taken them off, and they've put them back, and they've taken them off again. Is it an effective method, maybe this is for the police chief, of reducing the speed on a road?
I would say yes, it is an effective traffic calming measure. It's not the only one that we have available, but it is per our policy that if 50% of the residents, or excuse me, the homes along that roadway segment would like to have speed humps, then we would evaluate it for speed humps.
Okay. And in this case, I know that there has been some dissent in the neighborhood, but we have over 50% of the neighborhood would like to see this speed calming measure.
Yes, along those specific roadway segments.
Okay. But so then the question is, for our policy, does it need to be over 50% of everyone in the neighborhood, or only along the locations where the speed humps would be?
It would only be along the locations where the speed humps would be. It doesn't look at the community as a whole.
Okay. That's it.
That's it. Councilmember Schuster?
What's posted?
25 miles per hour.
25, and we're doing 85. There's a significant number doing greater than that, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. They'll tear up the bottom of their car once or twice, and that'll slow them down. Hopefully.
Theoretically.
I have a question, I'm assuming this, but I'd like to get it on record. I'm assuming that these asphalt speed humps being constructed to the same dimensions as the cushions that we put out recently meet with Chief Kemp's approval as far as ambulances and fire trucks. If they're the same dimension, I'm assuming it doesn't matter what they're made of. Is that, Chief, are you good with this?
I'm assuming, is that the area where?
That we went and
Yeah, so I actually went out there on my own, along with the staff, when we looked at this, and yeah, actually, the tires go right in between, so.
They're made that way on purpose to.
Yeah, assuming our drivers at night, can, and they slow down a little bit, because they definitely would have to slow down a little, but I am not opposed to it, in general. Yeah.
Okay. Chief Albano, you're good with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, if not, is there a motion?
Move to approve the speed humps on Sagebrook Community on Indigo Breeze Court and Water Chestnut Drive.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion of the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. I do have one comment, though, for the young lady who's here that, I'm done. You made one comment that I can't let it go. You said you had to fight with the city. So we have a policy for speed humps. It's a three-phase. First is the petition of over 50%. Second is an evaluation by our engineering department. And third, it comes to council and then is put on the projects list. So there's really not a lot of fighting here. You're not fighting City Hall to get these. There's a process. You might be fighting with your neighbors, but you're not fighting with City Hall, so.
Well, I'm not saying that, Mayor Ross. I
Okay.
worked for you guys for 2 years, so.
Okay.
When I say fight, I just fight with them.
I know, everybody's fighting with City Hall, but I like to clarify that a little bit. We do have a process. Occasionally we get fights, but not very often, so. Okay. Next is a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 12 of the code to change the terms of Board of Adjustment members. And I'll open the public hearing, and our Deputy City Attorney, Ernie Mueller, is here to explain.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Ernest Mueller with the Legal Department. I'm here to present for first reading a change in the ordinance that is going to change the Board of Adjustment members' term length from 2 years, as it states now, to up to 3 years. If you recall, a couple of years ago, we made some changes to the Board of Adjustment ordinance, and we also had to appoint a whole new board there. And so we they were all appointed for 2 years. Now come August, they're going to all expire at the same time. It's not the greatest practice. We need to try and stagger those terms. So by doing it up to 3 years, will allow you to appoint some for 3 years and some for 2 years so that we can have them staggered. Also, can also kind of increase the length of that term so that they aren't expiring every 2 years. I think 3 years would be a better way to go. And that's really all that I have. It allows, by going up to 3, it's going to continually allow the council to kind of adjust and keep those terms staggered. So, available for any questions.
Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this? If not, don't go anywhere. If not, council member questions. Go ahead, Councilmember Fernandez.
When you say that the council will have how will we decide who gets appointed for a 3-year term versus a 2-year term, and how do we set this that we have all of these people sitting on this board right now that we're all appointed for the exact same term at the same time, so they're going to expire at the same time. So how would we adjust that situation? Are we talking about when we reappoint, some would get a 3-year term, or I don't see how this happens?
Yes, that's the way it would go. I think, what I would hope to do is our clerk's office would send out an email to the board members, letting them know that their terms are expiring, and then if this passes, we can give them an option of 3 and 2. They may want to select whether they're 3 or 2. If we don't have it work out perfectly, I guess it'll kind of fall to the city council to decide who would get 3 or 2. But I'm hopeful that we'll have some that'll say, I only want 2, and some that'll say, I want 3. But I can't guarantee it.
I can inject real quickly in this because I've had conversations with everybody about this. I'm going to go to their meeting in July, and Ernie and I are going to explain what we're doing and ask if there's anybody, when they reapply, if they want to reapply, if there's any volunteers so they can have some discussion if they want. If they all reapply and nobody volunteers for a 2-year term, we'll probably do what we've done in the past and look at the date of their application, and the first ones in get the 3 years, and then, of course, all that's subject to council approval, but that would be how we would differentiate, because there's no other way to do it. But I'm going to go explain this to them in July so they understand what we're doing and why. I think, who was it?
Seems good.
Okay. Councilmember Chambers.
So on that, since they expire in 2 years this August, and if this passes tonight, do they still expire in 2 years, or do they get one more year, the current board?
No, they'll have to be reappointed in August.
All right, so they're done at 2 years no matter what we decide tonight.
Correct. You all did an appointment for 2 years.
Thank you.
Councilmember Schisler.
How many sit on the Board of Adjustment? 5?
5 with 2 alternates.
Shouldn't we spell this out in this ordinance to where this ordinance says we have 3 people that are going to be appointed for 3 years and 2 people appointed for 2 years, and as they cycle through, then it'll eventually bring it up to 5 3-year terms, but they're offsetting. So you have 3 people for 3 years, and then on the next year they'll have another 3 people. So it'll constantly be for 3 years, but you won't have the whole board coming off and on at the same time. Should we not spell that out in this iteration, or is it going to have to come back again later on? That's what I'm hearing. We're going to have to do this again.
Well, I thought about those different ways of trying to do it, and that's why I kind of stayed with the up to 3, because it'll give this board the discretion, or the council the discretion down the road, because sometimes there might be vacancies, and things will get off of that 3 and 2, and this will allow you to be able to keep things in that, to where they're staggered. But since it's up to 3, in future years, 3 years from now, 2 years and 3 years from now, you can just do them for 3-year terms, which will keep them staggered. But in the event that there's vacancies and people might drop off, you might lose that stagger. I've seen that happen a lot, and this will allow you to keep that stagger. of terms. But I'm more than willing to change it. I just couldn't really figure out a better
I
way.
don't know, I don't know how to tell you how to reword
Yeah.
it, but I'm just saying I just feel we're at the.
Normally, that's done when you've created the Board of Adjustment and you say those initial terms are, but we don't have initial terms now, so we
I thought
have,
we did.
yeah, I thought we did too, and they
Subsequent
didn't see
boards,
it.
we learned from this. If you'll, the
Yeah,
BPAC and
there was
the
something.
historical, we staggered them after.
Yeah.
But when we appointed the current BOA members, we didn't change the ordinance. So it wasn't, it went under the radar. We didn't realize, on the new boards,
We always did that.
we have had the practice of staggering them.
This
so
was
that-
hard enough to get this originally changed, so there was,
Well, ideally, to your point, ideally, we would only have to do this once, because
Yep.
after the initial 2-year terms, then they would be
Second.
staggered just by nature.
that's
So.
where it's staggered, but yeah.
Let me go to Councilmember Abel, or Vice Mayor Abel first. Did you have anything? Okay, then Councilmember Fernandez.
So then, when we advertise, so after this, the current members who wish to be reappointed, or anybody who wishes to be appointed to this board, selects the time period that they'd like to serve. Then later, when we advertise, let's say the people that are coming off are the 3-year terms, would we then advertise that this is, the position is a 3-year term? And then they wouldn't essentially really, they wouldn't be in the choosing. It would be the people coming on right now would be choosing, but after that, that time period and that seat is now associated with a term. Is that what you were thinking?
Right now, it'd be up, yeah, a term up to 3 years, and we're talking like 3-4 years down the road when you're doing reappointments then. I mean, technically, and after we get these staggered, if you wanted, I can change it back to a 3-year term. It doesn't matter, I don't know how many times you want to amend this ordinance on the terms. I was just trying to create something that would be workable in the future for you.
Well, I'm just trying to envision if we have, so whoever applies now, we're going to basically give them the option, if they don't ask for a particular term, if we don't have a balance of terms, then we're going to basically balance it here. But after that, so for the next, let's say a 2-year term, when that person comes off, then are we planning to still keep it like where the person who applies requests, well, I'd like a 2-year term, or I'd like a 3-year term, or, so let's say it's a person who's been on for the 2-year term, their term's up, and they're not coming back on, it's totally, someone totally new. Are we advertising that term, that seat is for a 2-year term, or no matter what throughout the process, the person who's applying can request a term, or say that they want a 2-year or a 3-year term? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
That's why I would say it would be advertised for an up to 3-year term, and I know that's really fuzzy. That's why I don't know whether maybe 6 months down the road from now, once we have them staggered, that if you want me to change the ordinance to make it all 3-year terms to avoid any of that confusion, I mean, that's an alternate, that's a possibility I'm more than happy to work with.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
When does this renewal period come up?
August,
August this year?
yes.
Okay. I just wondered, because in 4 years, you're going to have a substantially new council, potentially. And you got to reinvent the wheel and explain what happened, 5 years ago, 4 years ago. So if I don't want to drag this out, because we're running out, we're bumping up close to the time. But we got to bring it back for another vote
Second reading.
in the second meeting.
Well, again, ideally, we will only have to do this once. And then from here on out, it would naturally be staggered and everybody would get a 3-year term, and we would advertise it as a 3-year term, ideally. Now, over time, if nobody reapplies, I suppose, that can happen. But to your point, if this works as we think it'll work, we'll only do this one time. They'll only be 2-year terms one time. And then thereafter, it's 3-year terms.
I'm just wondering if we shouldn't spell that out in the initial ordinance so that, I don't know, I'm just saying, that way we avoid this issue in 4 years when you gotta stand up here.
Well, we could do that if you
I
felt
don't-
comfortable. We could do it at a future time. I'd really like to pass this tonight, but we could, after August, if you wanted, we could go back and just change it back to 3-year terms, because now everybody's on a staggered term.
Because some people will have chosen the 2-year term or be allocated the 2-year term
Right,
in August.
right.
So then after
Thereafter-
that appointment, if we went and amended this ordinance to just say, instead of up to 3 years, it would just say 3 years.
We could, but we also, keep in mind that we also, even when there's council turnover and staff turnover, though, I mean, all of this is on record. So, I mean, the reason for this and what we're trying to accomplish is in record, even though it may not be in the ordinance. So assuming we're all gone and Ernie's gone, and it comes time to appoint new members to the BOA, they're gonna look back and say, why did they put that language in the ordinance? And they're gonna see why. So I don't have a lot of heartburn that this is gonna get future councils jammed up, but, I mean, we could do something different if you.
I don't want to prevent this from happening now. We need to get this ironed out before, so August, it's a smooth transition on everything. I just trying to clean it up. We did it, we need to clean it up as best we can before we, while we're all still here.
And changing it to 3-year, down the road, 6 months from now or whatever, it's not going to be a difficult change.
I'm comfortable with that.
We all understand what we're trying to do?
Yes.
Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this? Okay. In that case, I will close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending the Temple Terrace Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12, Section 12-72A, to change the terms of the Board of Adjustment members from 2 years to up to 3 years, providing for severability, providing for codification, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion?
I move to approve an ordinance amending Chapter 12 of the code to change the terms of the Board of Adjustment members upon first reading.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor signify with aye. Aye. Opposed? No nays. Ordinance is adopted on first reading and will appear for a second reading and public hearing on Tuesday, July 16th, 2024.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Next is a second public hearing and second reading of an ordinance adopting a rezoning of folio number 037534-0000 with an address of 10024 Davis Road, an unknown address folio number 037531-5000, and our city planner, Miranda Anaya, is here to explain.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and City Council. At the last City Council meeting on June 18th regarding RZP 2302, there were discussions regarding the conditions for the plan development, particularly about lot coverage. The applicant at the last hearing requested to increase the lot coverage on each lot to 69%. City Council then requested information on possible alternative driveway materials, including pervious alternatives. This request is to continue this application, RZP 2302, to the July 16, 2024 hearing to allow more time for the engineering memorandum and coordination with the applicant to draft a driveway condition if needed. And the applicant is in attendance.
Thank you, Ms. Anaya. Does the applicant wish to make any comments, sir? Okay. This delay okay? Okay. Council members, questions? Okay. Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the request for continuance of the second public hearing and second reading of the ordinance adopting the rezoning of folio 037534-000 to the July 16th council meeting.
Second.
Motion, second discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No nays? Thank you very much. Next is a resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate the terms and execute a contract with Bandy's Construction for the progressive design build of the Whiteway Utility Service Center located, let me start over here. Resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate the terms and execute a contract with Bandy's Construction for the progressive design build of the Whiteway Utility Service Center at a budgeted amount of $7 million. And our Utilities Director, Troy Titch, is here to explain.
Good evening, Your Honorable Mayor, City Council. I'm here this evening to request authorization for the city manager to enter into a contract with Bandy's Construction for the final design and build of the Whiteway Utility Service Center. When we initially envisioned this project, we looked at a couple options for trying to streamline the design bid build process. So we came up with going a little bit newer methodology called design build. So we pushed forward to advertise this as a design build. You have to create what they call a design criteria package. And so we worked with the architects at CPH to develop the design criteria package, which consisted of 35% architectural drawings as well as specifications for how the building is to be constructed, because it is going to be a hardened facility. So we completed the DCP design criteria package. We advertised that package in April under a request for qualifications. We did receive 2 firms that submitted on that, design build teams. One was Creative Contracting, the other was Bandy's Construction. The staff evaluated both of the RFQs, recommended both for presentations. We went through presentations and had a fairly lively discussion afterwards and made a determination that we wanted to recommend Bandy's Construction to be the design build team selected for this particular project. The budget that we set aside for this was $7 million. We established that, and it is ARPA funded. This will be the largest vertical construction project undertaken within the city over the last 30 years. So it is fairly substantial. The last project would be the current Public Works building back in 1994. It's also going to usher in a new era for construction within the city. I think we all know that there are a number of construction projects that are on the books. The Utility Service Center will be first, shortly followed thereafter with the Emergency Operations Center at Fire Station 1, and then hopefully down the road we'll see a new police station built out on Harney Road. All these facilities will have something in common. They will be all hardened facilities, so this is kind of a new step for the city, so very excited about that, seeing that happen. This will provide a haven for staff during, during, and post hurricane event. So it's definitely, I think we're headed in the right direction with all these processes. The contract itself is based on the Design Build Institute of America's standard contract, and that was provided to all of you for your review in your packet. So we're going to meld that together with our current boilerplate contract to ensure that it entails everything we need. We're going to work collaboratively, city manager, utility staff, the city attorney's office. We're all going to work together, finalize this contract, then we'll send it to Bandy's for review and execution and move forward from there. I did want to talk a little bit about Bandy's itself. So they did provide us with a preliminary budget for the proposed project. I did also include that with your packet, and as well a very conservative schedule, and I know none of you could read that because it was about 0.1 font. So just to give you a little breakdown on that, the proposed budget or proposed estimate for the project is within our $7 million established amount. The schedule itself will have us completing construction in September of 2026, which is 3 months shy, or 3 months before the defined end of year under the guidelines set forth by ARPA. Again, I think that's a very conservative schedule. I've looked at it. I think there's possible ways for us to shade that down a little bit. But so we will certainly work with him to do so and complete the project as quickly as possible. That said, Staff recommends City Council authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Bandy's Construction for the design build of the Whiteway Utility Service Center with an established budget of $7 million in ARPA funding. I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tinch. Are there members of the public that wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, council member questions. Councilmember Schisler.
2 questions. When is he anticipated turning dirt?
Well, right now, the anticipated completion of construction or of design, they have in June of 2025, so about this time next year. But I think due to the advanced state of the 35% design plans, architectural plans, I think they're more advanced than 35. I think we're going to see a pretty rapid movement from the 35 to the 60% design plans and then to the 90. And I'm really hoping we can get that done close to the end of this year, the first of next.
Who's going to manage the project?
I will be the project manager from the city standpoint. We also have a consultant on board to assist us with this effort.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Councilmember Fernandez.
So, with regard to the budget, it's very close to what we established as our funding.
Yes.
So my question is, with change orders, most construction projects do not stay completely on their budget. So what would we do for funding, and do we anticipate, when you look at, I'll just give you an example. There was a time in the past where we actually got a street budget, a quote from a contractor, okay? And that contractor had left out all of the barricades, the cost of the barricades. So when you look at this, do you see any areas that maybe anything would be missing and we only anticipate change orders from just completely unknown things that might come up during construction, and how would we pay for them?
So in the estimate they provided, they actually indicated that a 3% overage amount are allotted for, to cover contingencies. And actually, I did the math and it's 5%. I think they made a mistake there. Also, I looked through the list, and one of the items listed is a new generator to power the facility. However, we believe the existing generator that powers the entire plant may be powerful enough to also power this facility. So if we don't need to purchase another generator, there's another 150. That brings us closer to 8% contingency. I think there's also some things that they listed in there that we likely will not utilize. So I think we can come up with the 10% contingency. Now, if we go over that, then we will dip into the reserve for the water and sewer fund, the 410 account. And I've put a placeholder in the budget for this upcoming year of $50,000, just in the event that we do have that, so at least we have the placeholder in place.
Okay, and then my other question has to do with the schedule. And we are on a very tight schedule, and I know you said you believe that the scheduling is conservative. So my only concern would be, do we have any, as the city, do we have any way to hold them to these milestones, because we don't want to miss any deadlines?
So where you really have the opportunity to hold their feet to the fire is towards the end of the project. And what you would do is you would put in liquidated damages, and there will be liquidated damages indicated in the contract. And usually that's at an amount of, to be said, generally it's $1,000 per day. So as you're moving close towards, you're obviously going to look at the schedule and say, okay, the Gantt chart, which by the way, we're going to provide a Gantt chart for this project, and all the council members will be able to see that and track that. So as you're moving down the process in the Gantt chart, and you see you're slipping off the schedule, that's where it's incumbent on myself and our consultants to go to them and say, listen, we're getting off schedule, we need to get back on the schedule. So you look at ways and opportunities to cut some time here and there. In addition, them understanding that if you don't hit this deadline date, the fine date, that you will then incur a $1,000 a day penalty, and that could run for whatever length of time is determined. So that's one specific way that I can think of to hold our feet to the fire for that.
Okay.
Good questions. Any other questions? I don't have any questions either. I asked for public comment already, so is there a motion?
Move to approve resolution authorizing city manager to enter into a contract with Bandy's Construction for the progressive design build of the Whiteway Utility Service Center at a budgeted amount of $7 million.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. Good. Thank you very much, Mr. Tinch.
Thank you. We're very excited
Resolution's
about this
adopted.
project started.
Yes, we're very eager to see it started too.
Absolutely.
Is there any carryover council business from previous meetings? Okay, new business and board reports. Yes, Vice Mayor.
I'd like to give you all an update on the BPAC's activities. I think it was a couple of weeks ago now, with the help of our city engineer, we submitted the application for the Bike Safe Communities. That came with a lot of collaborative work from the BPAC and a whole lot of help from Brian McCarthy. So hopefully we'll find out the results of that pretty soon. And hopefully we get a high ranking. We'll see how it goes though. The next thing we're up to is at the recommendation of the BPAC, we started making a plan to install bike racks around the city. And I was recently informed that we had some installed in Bonnie Brae Park. So those are all there for people to attach their bikes in that area and keep them safe while they visit the park. And the final thing I wanted to share with you is the BPAC has been coordinating with the Family Recreation Center, Mr. Langfeld, and the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department to put on a bicycle rodeo and helmet fitting for the kids participating at our summer program toward the end of the summer. So that's still in the works, but the BPAC is really excited to participate in that, and we're really happy we can provide that type of training to teach the kids in our community about safe cycling in the city. So just wanted to share that with you all.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. That's good stuff. Would you mind just clarifying for the public that may be watching that maybe don't know what the BPAC is and tell them?
It's the Bicyclist and Pedestrian Advisory Committee for Safety.
Good, thank you. Other new business, board reports. There is one item on the agenda, Florida League of Cities voting delegate. I think I'm the only one going to the conference, am I not? So each year the Florida League of Cities requests that a member of City Council be designated as a voting delegate. Election of league leadership and adoption of resolutions are undertaken during the business meeting at the conference in August. One official from each city will make decisions that determine the direction of the league. I will be attending the annual conference on August 15th to August 17th. It's in Hollywood, Florida. I think I'm the only one, and just for clarification for those of you who haven't been there or those of you who are watching, the decisions that are made are really rather benign. It's a big conference room with hundreds of people in it, and there's they have a vote for the various vice presidents each year. Everybody moves up. So there's a new president, and the second vice president becomes the first, and the third becomes the second, so on and so forth. The new person on the board is the third vice president. That's the new person. Everybody else just moves up. So there's that decision. The other decision that's typically put before us is kind of the general slate of legislative priorities. But keep in mind that the league's legislative priorities are limited to home rule issues. So the league doesn't take positions on gun control or abortion, or, I mean, we just, the only thing the league can advocate for is home rule protection. So, as always, I would never advocate to another government on behalf of the city without running by you. So there's none of that. So
Do we need a motion?
we do, but I just wanted to let you know what this means. It's not as, it's a big giant 400 people in a room, and they go, anybody opposed, and everybody, you know, so it's really not as impressive as it sounds.
Move to approve Mayor Ross as our voting delegate for the Florida League of Cities convention.
Second.
Discussion? Volunteers?
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no nays. Thank you very much for your confidence in me and the 300 other people. I do have one other item real quick, well, not real quick, but we did get a resolution from the Florida Association of City Clerks. And as you know, I don't know if everybody in the public knows, our city clerk Cheryl Mooney served as, talk about up through the chairs. That's another one that goes up through the chairs. She was the president of the Florida Association of Clerks last year. And the most recent year, she served on the board as a past president. And so we have a resolution appreciating all the work that Cheryl has done, but it's also addressed to us for appreciation to the city, for us being supportive of her and letting her spend time doing it and travel and all the things. So she's done a terrific job on their board. It's been beneficial to the city too. I'm a big advocate of all of us being involved in these associations and leagues and stuff. We bring back a lot of good information. Ms. Mooney has brought back a lot of suggestions and things that she's learned from other cities as a result of this. So thank you for your service, Cheryl, and
Thank you, sir.
share this with everybody. They also gave her a nice award. You have to stop by her office. It's really nice, like a big acrylic. It's impressive. They must like you. So, and that's all I have unless there's any other new business or board reports. Okay, Mr. Bia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. In your backup this evening, you've got a status report on the persons to be heard for the last 2 quarters, so have that there for your reference. Happy to answer any questions if you have any specific to this item. If not, I would like to ask Mr. Langfeld to come up and talk about July 4th.
Something going on?
Well, that's this week?
Yeah.
Good evening again, Mayor and members of the City Council. Yes, 4th of July is coming up in 2 short days. Just a quick overview of the activities going on the 4th of July. As is historical in Temple Terrace, we will have our 10 a.m. 4th of July parade. The route is from Gillette Avenue, south from Whiteway Drive to Druid Hills, and then west on Druid Hills to Ridgedale, and then heading south on Ridgedale and finishing in front of Temple Terrace Elementary School. For those of you who are looking for a place to watch the parade, best places to watch the parade along the fairways of Druid Hills or any shady spot you can find on the sidewalks along the parade route. In the evening time, activities on the first fairway start off at 6 p.m. with live music from the Charlie Imes Band, food trucks, games, photo booth, lots of fun for the entire family. Fireworks, 9:15 p.m. I want to caution everybody in the community that throughout the day there will be road closures throughout Temple Terrace, in the morning around the parade route, and then in the evening time around the first fairway of the country club and along Ridgedale Road. So as you're driving through the city, please take into account that there are going to be road closures in the area. All this could not be made possible without our presenting sponsor, TICO, and an entire laundry list of sponsors from the community who continue to support this every year. I would be remiss if I stepped away from the podium without recognizing that there is a small army of city staff who go into putting this event on every year. Staff from the Public Works Department, from the Utilities Department, Fire Department, Police Department, Leisure Services Department, the PIO. We are all out there early in the morning and late into the evening making this event happen. And they do a tremendous amount of work. You may already seen the road barricades out on the streets. Preparations are well underway to make this event happen again for the community. So I stand for any questions you all may have about the event.
Thank you, Mr. Langfeld. Questions, comments?
I have a comment. You know, it just goes back to the leadership and of all the department heads and all the departments and the supervisors, all the way down to who's ever sweeping the street at the end of it. It's just phenomenal. And our citizens love it and they look forward to it. And it's thank you. That's the best thing I can say is thank you for all the efforts to everybody.
Questions, comments? Very good. Mr.
See you
Lincoln,
all on
thank you,
Thursday.
thank you, and thank you to your staff. I just want to circle back real quick on the status report that we just got from Mr. Bahia for the public's benefit. This was Mr. Bahia's idea when he became our city manager almost 2 years ago, and for the public, every member of the public who comes and comments to us during public comment section at our meetings, like we had tonight, about the fence issue and that we heard. Every one of those items is followed up on by staff. Mr. Bahia gets with the appropriate departments and he follows up with the people who came to the meeting and so forth. And quarterly, typically we get the answers to this prior to a quarter later, but every quarter he compiles a report. And we don't read it all out because it's lengthy, but there's a spreadsheet that on this date, this person came and talked about this fence, or they talked about mosquito spraying, or they talked, whatever they talk about. And this was the result of that, and the complainant was contacted and discussed everything. So I don't want people to think ever that when they come here that their comments are full on deaf ears. Because they don't, and every single one of them generates a response by staff. So, and that was, thank you to Mr. Bia. We always followed up, but we never did it systematically like this. So, thank you for that. City Attorney.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Yes.
A question for City Attorney. And I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to call you last week on this, but with the Governor DeSantis's veto of the vacation rental efforts in the last legislature. What's that do for us? Nothing. Anything?
I'm not sure what, his veto of what specifically.
Well, I thought, well, what did he veto then?
I would have to look up to see what he vetoed.
I know what he vetoed, and it has no impact on us. If you're a city that was grandfathered in and had an ordinance regulating short-term rentals prior to 2011,
Yeah, July 2011.
Right.
then this bill would have would have taken away some more of that, what you had the ability to do. It would have created more preemptions if you were one of those cities. We don't have an ordinance, so it had no impact on us.
But we can't act on anything at the
No,
moment? Okay.
no.
All right.
So the cities
That's all I wanted to clarify.
the cities that were grandfathered in and had an ordinance prior to 2011, like most of the beach communities
Right.
in Pinellas, they were pushing for a veto. They didn't like the bill because it would have further restricted their.
Right.
and-
Well, I was just wondering if it gave us any more latitude to be able to do anything.
No, it didn't have any change for us because we weren't grandfathered. We don't have it.
Yeah, we didn't have it.
Yeah,
Okay,
so-
that's good.
so-
Okay, nothing else.
Okay, other council members, questions, comments, directors, anything? We're gonna see you all at the 4th? Right? Okay, good. Thank you all for all your work, and we will stand adjourned.
Thank you.